Karen confronts my child at the bus stop. Didn't know I'm chief of police. Welcome to Dabsy Stories. Drop a like on the video and subscribe so we can continue making videos like this one. Cold wind bit my son's cheeks as he stood by the yellow bus sign. He was 7, his back hunched under a heavy backpack, his glasses fogged in the chill. I watched from the porch, my off day, my chance to walk him to school. I'm Chief Anita Morales of our small city police, but today I was just mom. The bus rumbled down the street. David shifted his weight, hope in his eyes. Then Karen Peterson stormed up the sidewalk. Her heels clicked. Her clipboard thumped against her side. "Hey, kid," she barked. David froze. I tensed. "You can't stand here," Karen hissed, pointing at his feet. "This is private property. No loitering, no waiting without a permit." David's lip trembled. "Ma'am, I live here. The bus stops here." His voice was small. "I don't make the rules," Karen snapped. HOA bylaw 3.1. You gotta move along or I'll fine your parents. Iswhoop. David looked left and right. The bus had turned the corner, his fists clenched. He started to step back, but the curb was high. He stumbled. "Stop," I barked. I strode down the porch steps and caught David's elbow. Karen spun around. "You," she spat. "You're the chief's kid. I'll write you up too." I pulled out my badge. "Chief Morales, stand down." Her jaw dropped. Fear flickered. She raised her clipboard like a shield. This is community order." "Community order doesn't mean hurting a child," I said. My voice was low but fierce. Neighbors peeked out windows. David clung to my leg. Karen swallowed. She tapped her pen. "Sorry," she muttered, voice small. "I didn't know." I guided David back from the curb. The bus came into view. He let go of my coat and climbed aboard. He waved once, eyes wide. I watched the bus drive off, wheels kicking up leaves. Karen stood frozen. I met her gaze. "No child deserves fear at a bus stop," I said. "Learn the rules before you enforce them." She nodded, tears in her eyes. I turned and walked back to the porch. The wind had lost its bite. The next morning, gray sky pressed low over our cul-de-sac. I carried David's backpack and led him down the sidewalk. His cast from last week's bicycle fall still wrapped his arm. He hopped on one foot, careful not to trip on the uneven pavement. We joked about pancake mornings and how much he loved school. I smiled, tucking stray hair behind his ear. We reached the bus stop early, too early. A single bench sat under a rusty sign. Leaves swirled in the wind. David stood beside the bench, adjusting his bag. I watched him, heart full of pride and worry. Then I saw her, Karen Peterson, striding across her neatly trimmed lawn with that same clipboard. Her eyes darted to us before she spotted David. "Hey, kid," she called across the street. Her voice cut through the cold. Neighbors peeked from windows, clutching coffee mugs. David's face fell. He froze. I took a deep breath and stayed silent, watching. "You can't be here," Karen snapped, crossing onto the sidewalk. "This is private property. No waiting for buses unless you have a permit." David's hand tightened on the bench. "Ma'am, the bus stops here," he said softly. Karen arched an eyebrow. "That sign doesn't make it public. This neighborhood's private. Bylaw 3.1 says no loitering on common areas without approval. Move along, kid." I felt rage rise, but I held back. I'd teach her a lesson, but not here. Too many witnesses. Too many cameras. David blinked back tears. He shuffled closer to me. His small voice cracked. "I live here. I go to school." Karen sneered. "I enforce the rules. You step off or I fine your parents." David's lip quivered. He looked at me, panic in his eyes. I wanted to roar, but I simply stepped forward and rested a hand on his shoulder. "Karen," I said, voice calm but firm. I held up my badge, but I'm Chief Anita Morales. My son's waiting for the bus. Her eyes widened. She straightened, clutching her clipboard. "Chief?" "Rules don't override safety," I said. "You scared a child. That's assault." Karen's cheeks flushed. She tapped her pen on the clipboard. "I'm sorry," she stammered. But the bus had turned the corner. Its yellow bulk filled the street. David brightened and hopped forward. He climbed aboard, gave me a small wave. I returned it, then watched as the bus pulled away. Karen stared at the empty road. I met her eyes. "Learn the rules before you enforce them," I said quietly. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Then she turned and trudged back to her home, clipboard dripping papers like rain. I walked home, arms around David's empty bag, his footsteps light, his laughter still stuck in the wind. I felt the hollow ache of what could have been, his tears, his fear. I vowed no one would ever treat him like that again. At home, I poured 2 mugs of hot cocoa. David's casted arm wiggled with relief when I handed him a spoonful of marshmallows. He smiled, cheeks pink from the cold. "Thanks, Mom," he said. I was scared. I knelt and hugged him. "You're safe," I whispered. "Always safe." That night, I drafted new rules for our neighborhood, clear bus stop designations, public access signs, and penalties for private enforcement overreach. I sent the proposal to the HOA board and city council. Karen's clip-clop of heels had faded, but her shadow remained. I posted cameras at the bus stop and front yards. I made sure every corner had light, every child had a guardian. And I waited for the meeting where Karen would face every parent she'd frightened, every rule she'd twisted, because entitlement ends where justice begins. Dawn broke silver over our quiet street. I tucked David into his coat and walked him down to the bus stop again. His backpack was lighter today. No cast, no tears. He skipped the last step, excited to show his friends the new comic book I'd bought him. I stayed close, arms warm around his shoulders. The bus sign wobbled in the breeze. A few other kids gathered, trading jokes. One small girl tripped over the curb. David reached to help. I smiled, proud of his kindness. Then movement caught my eye. Karen Peterson appeared at the end of the block, heels clicking, clipboard in hand. My chest tightened. Yesterday's storm lingered in her glare. She marched toward us, ignoring the wet grass. I slowed my pace, but kept an eye on her. "Hey, you!" she shouted, voice shrill. David froze mid-laugh. I felt every parent's protective pulse send a jolt through me. Karen pointed at the painted curb. "That red strip marks fire lane. No standing, no waiting. You know that, boy?" David swallowed. "Ma'am, the bus uses that spot. The sign says school bus stop." She snorted. "Signs don't supersede bylaws. Section 5.2 forbids any vehicle or person blocking fire access. Move along or I'll fine your parents." The other children quieted, staring. I stepped forward, hot badge in my coat pocket. "Karen," I said, calm but firm, "this is a designated school bus stop, approved by the city, approved by the HOA when I sat with them last week. You had that variance signed." Karen's eyes flicked down. I saw yesterday's paper in her clipboard. The signed variance. I held up my hand. "You agreed. You signed it," she stammered. The yellow bus groaned around the corner. Its brakes squealed on the wet asphalt. David's face lit up. He stepped forward, backpack straps held tight. Karen glared at the bus, then back at the curb. "Kids get off at the corner," she muttered. She stepped up to David. "No exceptions." I saw his small body tense. I moved quicker than thought. I grabbed Karen's elbow. "Stop," I said, voice low with warning. "Let the kids wait." Karen's mouth opened. She yanked her arm free and swung her clipboard at me. It hit my coat, but missed my badge. The other parents gasped. One man lunged to pull Karen back. I caught David's hand and led him behind the line of waiting cars. "Stay safe," I whispered. He nodded, courage settling back in his eyes. The bus door hissed open. David climbed the steps and turned, waving. I returned the wave, then stood tall as the bus pulled away. Karen stepped forward as if to argue, but the other neighbors closed ranks. Mrs. Alvarez moved beside me. "Enough, Peterson," she said. "Let the children be." Karen's face crumpled. Tears gleamed in her eyes. "I only want order," she sniffled. "I only want safety." I exhaled. "Safety doesn't come from fear," I said. "It comes from rules we all agree on, and respect." I took the clipboard from her trembling hands and held it aloft. "And we agreed to this variance. You can't ignore it now." She looked at the paper, then at the assembled neighbors. Her shoulders sagged. She whispered, "I'm sorry." I handed back the clipboard. "Learn the rules before you enforce them," I said gently. Karen nodded, head bowed. She retreated down the block, the clipboard clutched like a shield. I lingered as the bus drove off. The other parents clustered around me. One mother hugged my arm. "Thank you," she said. "He's safe because of you." I shook my head. "We all keep each other safe," I replied. That evening, I drafted a new community email. No private enforcement at bus stops, clear signage for all pickup zones, and HOA training for any rule changes. I sent to the board in the city. Within hours, dozens of neighbors signed on. Later, I tucked David into bed. He hugged his comic book tight. "Mom, thanks for standing up," he said softly. I kissed his forehead. "Always," I whispered. "Always." Outside, lights glowed on the bus shelter. A new sign, approved school bus stop, no enforcement without notice. The curb was striped fresh. And down the block, Karen's house stood silent, her clipboard gone. The wind was calm. The neighborhood slept safely, its children free to wait without fear. A week later, dawn arrived in pale pink hues. I rose early to prepare David for school, his backpack lighter, his spirit brighter. He hummed as he ate cereal, recounting the bus stop victory with neighbors. Carla kissed his cheek and sent him off with a lunch bag stocked with extra cookies. I watched him trot down the driveway, then strode after him, badge clipped to my belt. At the bus stop, children clustered under the new shelter, its roof sturdy, its sign gleaming, approved school bus stop, no enforcement without notice. The freshly painted curb shone red and white. Parents chatted, laughing as they watched their kids. The morning felt charged with hope. Then I saw her. Karen Peterson, standing at the edge of the street, clutching a tattered clipboard and a coffee cup. Her shoulders drooped, eyes hollow. No click of heels this time, just ragged footsteps. She approached with hesitance, rehearsing words no one could hear. David caught sight of her and froze. His small frame stiffened. I stepped forward, putting myself between him and Karen. Karen's lips trembled. She cleared her throat. "Chief Morales," she said, voice barely audible. I want to apologize." She extended the clipboard like a peace offering. The paper stuck out, rows of scrawled names. I took it warily. "This is your petition," she said. I let it at first, but I realized I was wrong. I want to help fix things. Can you find a role for me?" My heart clenched at her plea. Yesterday, she enforced rules with cruelty. Today, she offered her service. I scanned the clipboard, dozens of HOA residents' names, pages of support for community watch restructuring and neighborhood improvements. Neighbors watched in silence. Some exchanged uncertain glances. I stepped aside and called, "Parents, take a look." They shuffled forward, inspecting the petition. Murmurs of surprise and approval spread. Mrs. Alvarez nodded. "She's genuine," she said softly. "She's made mistakes, but she's trying." Carla approached Karen and offered her a spare chair. Karen sat, hands folded, head bowed. I joined them. "Your bylaw enforcement hurt families," I said gently. "But if you truly want to help, actions speak louder than words." Karen exhaled. "I was blind," she whispered. "I thought strict order meant a better community, but I lost sight of people. I broke your son's trust. I want to make amends." I regarded her for a moment, then stood and addressed the group. "HOA Karen," I began, using the nickname everyone knew, "has proposed to join a new Neighborhood Unity Committee. We'll oversee bus stops, public spaces, and ensure no private enforcement harms vulnerable residents. We'll train all members, no weapons, no sprays, only support. If Karen Peterson completes the training and works under supervision, her mistakes can become lessons for us all." Silence fell, then spontaneous applause rose. Children clapped, neighbors cheered, some wiping tears. David hopped down from the bench and marched to Karen. He held out his hand, a small gesture of forgiveness. Karen's eyes brimmed. She took his hand, her grip gentle. The bus arrived then, its doors hissing open. David climbed aboard, waved at everyone, then settled near the front. As the bus pulled away, Karen watched it go, her face soft with relief and purpose. That afternoon, I drafted the decree establishing the Neighborhood Unity Committee, with Karen as an honorary member under probation. We outlined roles: station parents at bus stops during school hours, maintain safe sidewalks, report hazards, and host monthly community gatherings. No enforcement powers, only petitions, recommendations, and volunteer patrols. Months later, on a crisp breeze day, I walked David to the bus stop. Karen waited with coffee and muffins for the children. She patted his shoulder as he approached. He grinned and accepted a treat. I stood back, heart full, as they chatted. It was their ritual now. The new committee held its first meeting under the pavilion. Parents, seniors, teens, and Karen around a table. Plans for playground repairs, evening stroll watches, and an annual block party were drawn up. Laughter and ideas filled the air. That evening, I tucked David into bed. He hugged his favorite stuffed bear. "Mom, Dad, today was fun," he said, eyes heavy. "Bus stop's my favorite place now." I kissed his forehead. "Me too, buddy." As I turned off the light, Carla whispered from the doorway, "You think it'll last?" I smiled quietly. People can change when we give them the chance. The rules protect us, and so do the hearts behind them. Outside, wind rustled the trees. The bus stop sign gleamed in street lamp glow, a symbol not of division but of unity. And down the block, Karen's house stood quietly, no clipboard in hand, just a light in the window, ready to serve rather than enforce. The end.